London.
Let's get more of this from international consultant and author Adrian Salvucci, joining us live from Buenos Aires. Mr. Salvucci, how do you view this mood of celebration of some leaders over the violent death of Gaddafi?
Well, undoubtedly, this is a message for the whole world. I don't think this is just about Libya. We are seeing how, I think Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State of the United States, expressed it very clearly on CBS News when she said, "We came, we saw, he died, and then started laughing." This is a message to the world of how this new world order model actually works. When they decide to take out a regime, they do so with the utmost violence, and it's a whole model based on Orwellian newspeak, so to speak. First, they target a country by calling it a rogue state. Then they support local terrorists and call them freedom fighters. Then they rain death and destruction upon civilians and they call it UN sanctions. Then they spread lies and call it the international community's opinion expressed by the Western media. Then they invade and control a country and call it liberation. And finally, they steal appetizing oil and call it foreign investment and reconstruction.
All right. Well, at the end of the day now, Western powers are hailing a democratic future for Libya now. But when we look back, when Saddam Hussein was captured in 2003, the U.S. also thought it was all over. But in fact, it had only just begun. Do you think it could be the same for Libya?
Absolutely, and it's going to be even worse. Let's not forget that Saddam Hussein, his country was invaded and destroyed with over 1.5 million people dead because in November 2002, only 6 months earlier, he had decided to sell his oil in euros and not in dollars. And I think one of the reasons why his country of Libya has been invaded and he has been killed is because he had planned to introduce the gold dinar as a golden currency that could very easily have become a major currency, at least in North Africa and in the oil market. Don't forget, Libya has the 9th largest oil reserve in the world and the main oil reserve in all of Africa. So I think this definitely smells of oil, definitely smells of greed on the part of Western companies as Exxon, British Petroleum, and Total. And they are just using this newspeak, as I say, to try to justify that they have supported the worst terrorists, probably because in the White House, at the Palais Élysée in France, and in 10 Downing Street, we also have very high-class terrorists and mafias running those countries and the better part of the world.
All right, and another worry that has been voiced by several people in the run-up to what's happening right now is sectarian violence. If Libya does turn into an uncontrollable zone of this sectarian violence, who will be held accountable and who should be held accountable?
Well, clearly, the United States, France, Britain, and NATO should be held accountable. In any country, Libya included, Egypt, every other country, there is always about a half of the population that is against the ongoing government. That definitely, we've seen that in Libya. But what about the Wall Street protesters in the United States? What about the very violent protests in London a few weeks ago? What about the horrendous police repression in Athens? Should we also be invading and bombing Greece, the United Kingdom, and the United States because of the way they are handling their own internal divisions?
Okay, and just very quickly, I mean, you did mention it earlier, but just a quick answer to this. Do you think the rebel-assisted victory in Libya will mark the end of NATO's interest in the country?
Definitely not. This is just the beginning. This is part of global regime change. And I would say orange alert for Venezuela, in my region, for Bolivia and for Ecuador, and definitely red alert for Syria and for Iran. This is the kind of democracy that the United States, Britain, and France want for the whole world.
All right. Thanks very much for your thoughts there, international consultant and author Adrian Salvucci. Thank you.